I was in Ulta the other day buying some NYX lip pencils. I wanted to compare the old formula with the new formula to see if the shades have changed at all. I did a whole video about that, comparing 3 of the original shades and 3 of the new shades, so if you'd like to learn more. And while I was there, I was doing some window shopping, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I took videos of everything that I was playing around with, and that way I could come back and we could go window shopping together. I went through and did swatches of a lot of products that are currently on my radar, on my wish list, and getting to play with them in person helped me determine whether or not they should stay on that wish list. So I thought it'd be fun to show you the video footage and kind of talk about my rationale and my thoughts and first impressions on all of these products. I enjoy going to Ulta and Sephora with people and just playing around with stuff and just talking about our first impressions. And I love the idea of getting to do it together. And that way, if you have any thoughts on these products, maybe you have them or you've also played with them in store, you can share your experiences and we can kind of just talk about these products without anyone having to purchase them. I moved over to the side and that way there's plenty of room for video footage. And I'll also put screenshots of what it looks like on the Ulta website, because sometimes it looks really different online than it does in person. And because of that, I have made some purchasing regrets in the past, and so I thought maybe I could help prevent you from doing the same. When I went in, I started on the left side, which is where the drugstore stuff is. And there's a pretty extensive about face section, which is cool because there's a lot of really fun colors from that brand. And I have had my eyes on some of those liquid eyeshadows, but I struggle to purchase those because I know them being liquid products, they'll dry out more quickly than a powder eyeshadow would. But that didn't stop me from playing around with them in person just to see what they would look like. I have them swatched all here on the back of my hand. If you look on the top corner of my hand, you'll see that green and blue eyeshadow, and those are both from their holographic eye paint line. The blue one with the purple shift is called Inner World, and then the green one is called Luna. These were so pretty, so much more pigmented than I thought that they would be, and I love that you can see that multi-chrome effect. These are described as a color shifting chrome-like eyeshadow, and I think that's right. I think you're very easily able to see the shifts between the two colors. I think you can see it more in Inner World than in Luna, but these were really pretty and they seem to be really easy to work with and relatively pigmented after one swipe. They are $18 a piece though, so that's an investment for sure. They're not colors I think I would wear all the time, and again, with them being liquid shadows, they are more likely to dry out much more sooner than a powder shadow would. I also played around a little bit with the matte shades, and those are called the matte fluid eye paints. That really light purple in the bottom corner of my hand is called Freaked. It's described as a matte gentle lavender, and I think that's really accurate. This is a really, really pretty color. I do gravitate towards these sort of shades. And the one next to it is called Smell Before Rain. This is called a matte beige. Pulls almost like yellow or even maybe a little olive on me. Very interesting, a lot more interesting than I thought it would look, especially considering online it looks very neutral, kind of like a clay pink color to me. And then the bright purple next to it is called New Karma. It's just described as a bright purple, and I think that's pretty accurate. These are pretty. They're pretty. And then that chartreuse color on the bottom right corner of my hand is actually one of their shadow sticks, and it's in the shade Acidic. And this is really pretty too. They have a ton of different colors from this range. And that one just stood out to me, not necessarily as a color that I would wear on myself, but just a color that I wanted to swatch. Often I am more excited to swatch like the more exciting shades in store. And then on the top left, you see that purple shimmery color and then that yellow. Those two are from the Fractal Glitter Eye Paints. So there's multiple types of formulas within these eye paints from About Face. And the yellow shade is called Sour Note. It's described as a lemon lime. And the purple shade is called Take a Trip, and it's called a digital lavender, which is a really fun way to describe it. I really like those two shades in particular because they are colorful, but they're relatively bright. If I'm gonna go for a colorful eye look, I would tend to prefer something that is lighter and going to still give more of a brightening effect on my eyes. The matte and the Fractal Glitter Eye Paints are my two more preferred formulas from this brand. Not that I own any of them, just from swatching. The Fractal Glitter Eye Paints had a lot of really pretty colors. They had a lot of greens and purples and blues. I could have just stood there and swatched those all day. Another cream eyeshadow that was on my radar was the Eyes to Mesmerize eyeshadows from Charlotte Tilbury, specifically the shade Oyster Pearl. I always hear people rave about that color in particular. It's described as an antique oyster gold, and I do definitely see the gold. I thought it was going to be a little more cool toned. It looks like the base is more of a cooler toned brown, and then the shift definitely is that antique gold. I'm glad I swatched this in person. I'm glad I got to play around with it. It's a really nice formula, but this shade, number one, isn't special enough for me to spend the $35 on it. And also that gold shift is a lot warmer than I typically go for. I've been gravitating towards neutral or cool leaning eyeshadows lately. So I'm glad I swatched this one in store. It was pretty, but it definitely has been removed from my wish list. Some other eyeshadows I was looking at was this palette from Too Faced. It's one of their mini Born This Way eyeshadow palettes. I have the Natural Nudes Born This Way eyeshadow palette, and I love this palette so much. Specifically, the mattes are so beautiful, but this does pull very warm. And so I was gravitating towards the Gold Smolder version. There's two minis. One is more warm, the Warm Ember Nudes, and then Cold Smolder is the cooler tone one. And so I swatched it in store, and I swatched it against some of the shades from the Natural Nudes palette just to see how different they were. And you can very easily see that the shades from the Born This Way are very, very warm in comparison to the Cold Smolder. And I've mentioned before, I don't really love the shimmer shades from this palette. They're a little chunky and not really easy to work with. But when I swatched the Tester mini palette in store, the shimmer shades felt different. They felt just more like metallic eyeshadows. I'm going to assume that they likely updated the formula a little bit, at least of the shimmer shades, but the mattes were beautiful too. I do have some cool toned eyeshadows in my collection, and I'm not really in the market for more palettes right now. But yeah, swatching this in store just made me want it even more. So sometimes swatching in a store doesn't deter me, it just makes me want it more. And this other eyeshadow from Too Faced, it was not on my wish list. I didn't even know it existed until I saw it in person, but it looks stunning in person. My goodness, this color is like right up my alley. It's the Disco Crush High Shine Glitter Eye and Face Sparkle. When I swatched it on my wrist, I noticed that it doesn't really have any base pigment to it. It really just is a ton of glitter, and so it doesn't really look like what it looks like in the pan. Keep in mind, this is a $30 single eyeshadow. That is quite an investment, and it says sparkle right in the name, so I don't know what I was expecting. It just didn't look how I wanted it to look. So this one never made it on the wish list to begin with, and I did not add it to my wish list after playing around with it. Another eye product is the LA Girl Pastel Dream Auto Eyeliner in the shade Lavender. This is a beautiful light purple color. I've really been gravitating towards purple makeup lately. Not necessarily purple eyeshadows, but those purple violet powders. And then this purple color from LA Girl I think would be a beautiful lower lash line eyeliner. And I did just finish my lower lash line eyeliner from Essence. So I'm kind of in the market for a new one. I don't know if I would want to wear purple every single day. Like the Essence one was like more of a nude color. So I'd likely repurchase that eyeliner instead of this pastel one, but it looks even more beautiful in person than it does on the website, and I've just been really eyeing up these sorts of shades lately. This is staying on my wish list, and it might be something that I pick up in the future. This eyeshadow palette from Ulta, again, wasn't on my wish list because I didn't know it existed, but it caught my eye while it was in store because those purple shades, especially that one in the center, reminds me a lot of Petal Pusher from Makeup Geek, which was a single eyeshadow that I loved and eventually finished. And I am still on the hunt for a shade like that. I just think it's like the perfect mid-toned cool purple. Unfortunately, when I swatched it on the back of my hand, it pulled a lot more warm, and then the other purple shade that I also swatched on the back of my hand, you can barely even see. It was so sheer, it like didn't do anything. Keep in mind, this was towards the end of my shopping trip, and so I had a ton of swatches that I had tried to wipe off on the back of my hand. So that deterred me from wanting the palette. But they have 5 different eyeshadow palettes in this Mini Moods eyeshadow palette line. And the one I was looking at was the one called Soft Romance. Those were all the eye products I was looking at. Now let's move over to cheek and face products. So over in the Too Faced section, I saw that they came out with a few more new shades of their Cloud Crush Blurring Powder Blush. I have one of them in the shade Head in the Clouds, and I absolutely love this blush. I love the packaging, I love the formula, the color. I love how it smells. It smells kind of perfumey, like a sweet perfume. It's beautiful. And there are other shades from that line that I'm interested in, but I know I wouldn't wear them as often as I do this shade. One shade I have been looking at is Candy Clouds, which is a really bright bubblegum pink. That's the one that's swatched in the center of my hand. It always pulled just a little too bubblegum for my preference. I'm not sure if that would even look good on me. I'm a little bit burned because I remember buying the Dior blush a long time ago. And that was a similar color to this, and it looked so bad on me. I think I talked about it in a video forever ago, and I mentioned that it made me look dead. I bought this thinking, wow, this would work really well for me. I love very pigmented blushes. I think the cooler tone pinks flatter me depending on like what look I'm going for, and I do have other cool tone pinks that I love, but something about the way that shade worked on my skin, it just, I don't know how to say it without being morbid, but like, I don't know, it just made me look like I was a dead person, and I had makeup on that was trying to make me look like alive, you know? That's exactly what it looked like. It made my skin look clammy. Swatching it on the back of my hand, I'm still not sure if that sort of color would be the best for me. However, the other two shades, the new ones, definitely caught my eye. The one on the left side is called Super Candy Clouds, and it looks like it's supposed to be a deeper version of the original Candy Cloud shade. And then the one on the far right is called Berry Dream. Interestingly, in the store, the shade is labeled as Berry Dreamy, but on the website it's called Berry Dream. And it's described as a deep berry. It looks beautiful, it looks stunning. It looks like one of those blushes that I would wear on my cheekbones, but I'd also wear it in the crease. It looks really, really pretty. I imagine I'd have to use such a light hand though, because it looks very deep. I already know I really like that formula though. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. I just think that these are really pretty. Another blush that caught my eye was the Lip and Cheek Glow from Charlotte Tilbury, specifically that bottom shade Sun Blushed Glow. It's described as a flushed flame red, but it looks more coral to me in person. It's really beautiful. I thought it was going to be a lot more pigmented, so I was glad to see that it was more of a pop of color, more so than just like being a straight up red. On the back of my hand, that is what's on the left side of my hand, and then the one right next to it, the more brown color, is Pillow Talk Color of Dreams. There's two Pillow Talk shades from this line. The Pillow Talk Color of Dreams, which is a warm rosebud pink, and then Pillow Talk Color of Passions, which is a blushing berry pink. I'm assuming it's a little bit deeper. And then the one on the bottom, the tester said that it was Pinched Cheek Glow, and it looks more like a purple pink in person, but on the website it's described as a sun blushed rose, and it's like a really bright red. And so I think maybe the wrong blush was in that spot, and I didn't swatch the correct shade. I don't think that's Pink Cheek Glow. I don't know what shade that is on the back of my hand, but really the one that I was paying attention to was the one on the left side. It just looks stunning. Like, it really caught my eye. And then another one that looks a lot like it is the Fenty Cream Blush in the shade Strawberry Drip. This is considered a soft coral pink. And this one actually reminds me a lot of the Makeup Revolution Beloved blush. This is a blush that I bought back in like 2015 or 16. And I have not been able to find any shades like it since. It's just such a stunning color, and I am sort of starting to be on the lookout for a shade like it to dupe it eventually once this is something that's getting too old and I'm not comfortable wearing it anymore. It's just so pretty, and the Fenty one reminds me a lot of this shade, and so I would like to maybe bring this in with me and swatch them side by side to see if they're as close in real life as I think they are. You'll notice it looks a lot deeper in the pan than it does on the back of my hand again. It really shears out. Let's talk about the purple powder. So I have been wearing the Besame Violet powder for years now, years and years. And I love it. I love using it to set my under eye concealer. I've been having trouble getting this shade again. It's been out of stock on the Besame website for a while now. And so I asked for the Fenty Beauty Lavender Powder for Christmas, and I have been loving this. I think it's a really great alternative, and I will continue enjoying this while I wait for Besame's shade to come back in stock, if it ever does. It's really nice, but it's also just made me want to try all the purple powders that are out there. I'm not interested in the Huda Beauty one though, because that one looks a lot warmer. It looks a lot more pink purple, and I think that would be too pigmented. This one from Fenty and the one from Besame, they're still light powders, they just have a hint of violet to them. And so I wanted to swatch the Tarte one in person because I wasn't sure if it was going to be super purple or if it was just going to be a hint of purple like the others. It's the Creaseless Setting and Brightening Powder in the shade Lavender. I like the light color of the lid. That light purple is really pretty, but then it has a lid that covers the mesh part where the powder comes out. So you can close the lid and then have a place for you to kind of swirl your brush around and get like a more uniform amount on your brush. I love that. I think the packaging is really nice. The color looked beautiful. So swatching this in store makes me want it even more than when I just had it on my wish list originally. And the last cheek product is the Hollywood Contour one from Charlotte Tilbury. I think they originally only had 2 shades and I had the lighter of the 2. Yeah, I have fair medium and they had a deeper shade, I believe, and now they have 7 shades. I'm really, really glad to see that. It looks like they have tan and deep shades that have neutral and cool undertones. If you look at the swatches on the back of my hand, the one on the left side, the lighter shade, is their new shade called Fair, and then the one next to it is Fair Medium, which is the one that I have. And I remember when I was swatching it in store that I was confused because it looked way darker than the shade I have at home. Okay, it still looks dark, but in the store it looked a lot more yellow brown, whereas this one does have a rosiness to it. I don't know, they just look like 2 different colors, so I wonder if they reformulated all of the shades. I don't know, but that was confusing and I'm still not sure if these are the same shades after all. Now for lips, it's all Charlotte Tilbury products. I just love the kissing formula from Charlotte Tilbury so much. I love the way it feels. I like their color options. I like that it smells like vanilla. It's just a really nice, beautiful formula. I have several Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. I don't need to buy any more right now. But that doesn't mean I didn't want to swatch them, and look at how pretty they were. So on the back of my hand, you'll see 3 shades. The first one is from their kissing formula. It is the shade Rose to Fame. It's a beautiful, deeper mauve color. I'm pretty sure this is from that Beauty Icons pink lipstick tube collection that came out a little while ago. And I think it's the only shade from that line that I don't have in my collection. And it's beautiful. Again, I don't need it right now, but I just wanted to swatch it because it's pretty. And it's in the formula that I prefer. I prefer kissing over the matte formula. And then the other 2 are from the matte formulas. That middle one is Wedding Bells, which is a shade that I have at home. So I kind of just wanted to swatch that shade to see how different the other ones were to that shade that I already have. And then the one next to it is again from their matte formula. It's from the Hot Lips collection and it's Secret Selma, described as a deep rose plum. This one looks significantly warmer than the Rose to Fame shade, and so if I were choosing between the 2 shades, I would likely go for the Rose to Fame, not only because I like the color better, but I also like the kissing formula better. Another lipstick formula I swatched were the Superstar Lips lipsticks. They only have 2 shades now. I'm pretty sure they had more shades back in the day, and even some of them had like a sparkle to them. I'm only seeing 2 on the Ulta website, and I only saw 2 in store. So I swatched them next to each other. The one on the left side is Pillow Talk. It's a nude pink. And I do like that they have a Pillow Talk shade that's more moisturizing. I've mentioned that I like the Pillow Talk shade, but I don't prefer the matte formula, and I wish that they would come out with a kissing formula of it. And I think this is kind of their version of that. They also have Pillow Talk in their Hyaluronic Happy Lips collection, which is also a very moisturizing lipstick. And so I did swatch this because I love the Superstar Lips lipstick formula. I have the shade Walk of No Shame, which I also swatched. It's right next to it. And I wore this during my wedding reception. I think it's a beautiful color. I've had it for years, and so I am trying to finish it this year. It's described as a berry rose on the website. When I wear this on my lips, it definitely pulls more of like a brick red. And so there is a subtle difference between what this actually looks like in real life and what it looks like in my swatch in the store. Alright, that was everything that I swatched in store. I hope this was fun. This was really fun to do. Once I got over my nervousness of like filming in public like that, this is really beneficial for me to almost have this like cataloged, because I can come back to this video and see what these look like in person. And this is something that I think would just be really fun to do regularly. Maybe I could do it at Nordstrom, or I could do it at Sephora. I really feel like doing stuff like this is going to help me add more novelty to being a makeup enthusiast without having to buy the products myself. And there are quite a few products in here that once I played with them in person, I realized they weren't for me. And so that's a potential regret purchase that I avoided. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed it, if you would like me to do this at other stores, if there's a different way I could be formatting this so that it's more enjoyable and more useful. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video.